Good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County, and welcome to Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you. And Margie, it's good to have Bradford and Brooks and not Milton Margie.
Yes, it is. Well, welcome back.
So it is good to be back. Good to be back. And we are wrapping up. I guess next week we will wrap up our conversations with candidates.
Right. And we'll have interviewed all of the candidates except those for school board and city council. So we'll, all of the other county offices we will interview all of the candidates.
Yeah, election's coming up soon. Early voting starts.
Well, actually, early voting, you can do early voting on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before the election.
Right.
But right now, you can do early voting if you have a reasonable, if you have an excuse. For example, if you're not well or you have mobility issues. Right now, you can go to or due to age.
Right.
And you can go to the county clerk's office right now and do early in-person voting at the county clerk's office.
Right.
So one of the things I wanted to say something about is the ID. We all need an ID for voting. And that, of course, would be number one is a driver's license.
Right.
Number two is a military ID. And number three, college ID. So any of those three you can use. But if you don't have one of those three, you can request what's called a reasonable impediment declaration. And here are the things that you can use in that is, number one, your Social Security card. You have your Social Security card with you. Secondly, any ID issued by a county in Kentucky. So if you were a county employee or you have a county ID, that would work. Any state ID with a picture. So if you have a state position and you have a picture ID, that can be used. A credit card, if you have a credit card or a debit card, that can be used. Any food stamp ID card that shows your name. So there are alternatives if you do not have, the driver's license or military or college ID.
Right.
And just request that. And if you have any questions about that, just call the county clerk's office and they will walk you through whatever needs to be done.
That's right. That's right. So even if you don't have a driver's license or an official state ID, there's other alternative forms of ID that will allow you to go ahead and vote.
Yes. And another thing to remember is that during the election, at that early voting will take place at the library.
Right.
And also on election day, it doesn't matter what precinct you belong to. If you want to, you can vote at the library. If you don't want to go back to your precinct or you don't know your precinct, you can vote at the library.
Right. All right. Well, Margie, let's get going here. We've got our a candidate here in the hot seat, ready to roll with us. Mr. Tim Hutchins joins us here in the studio today here at WBRT, and Tim is a Republican candidate for Nelson County Judge Executive. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
It's good to have you here, and it seems like I can't go to Facebook and go anywhere without seeing you somewhere, some festival, or you're everywhere.
Well, we made a big push, and we've got a lot of people out helping me working, and I'm going basically all over the county. So if you haven't seen me by now, they need to listen to the Bradford and Brooks show.
Right. well, Tim, first off, you're seeking the job of judge executive, and you're following up, Dean Watts, who's had roughly 30 years. How would you compare your decision? And of course, you served with Dean as a magistrate when he was judge. How would you compare your management style or your decision making? Compare yours with Dean's. What's the any similarities or differences that you can think of?
Well, I think there's quite a bit of differences. I've been in private business all my life, and I've owned construction companies and in the store Handy Food Mart. So I've had hundreds of employees and of all races, and male and female, and when you're working for yourself and you got to sign the fronts of the checks to keep your business going, and in today's changing times especially, and then so I think the management style is, I've been in the private sector say 40 years anyway, and that's definitely I think anytime when you work for yourself and you've been involved in as many things as I've been involved in, I think it's most people that's got a small business that they have to work and manage, it just changes the I think a little bit different style there, because you can see the everyday problems in the county and what it takes to operate a business, and possibly too many regulations and overreach. And I've been on the fiscal court before too, so I can kind of see both sides of it. So I think I'll be a little bit better as far as seeing the issues that the county needs or wants.
Okay, but Tim, I will tell you, since this goes back to the primary, my sources in county government, the employees, some of them are very concerned if Tim Hutchins becomes judge executive. I think they've heard you talk about trying to streamline things and make things more efficient, and I think that's interpreted as a possible threat to their employment. That there's a lot of nervousness in county government about what changes you might do as judge executive. And you've been out of you've been away from fiscal court, what, 12 years?
Yes.
How are you going to move forward? And the idea of streamlining things sounds good, but when you've got somebody who's working full time anyway, it sounds like they may wind up with more things to do that maybe they don't want to do. But there's a lot of nervousness, Tim. What would you say to county employees who are really afraid of what changes might come down the road?
Well, I think if you look at my success in business and then go back to my 17 years as a magistrate, and I got elected in '94 in the fiscal court, I had a very good working relationship with all the magistrates and the judge. And if they really want to look at the history, anybody that is concerned, we brought their pay scales up tremendously. When we took office, they were way underpaid. As a group, the fiscal court, and we bought a lot of equipment, upgraded equipment in all departments, and then we got their pay scales up tremendously. I can't remember every little dollar for dollar, but looking back, we gave the percentages of what the inflation was, cost of living, and then we, in just about every department, we bumped up like $1 per hour for like 5 years to get them up. A lot of them were making minimum wage or very close to that. And I think my record proves that I would always support the employees of the county. When I say streamlining, I don't know who you're talking to, but I feel like I know a lot of the county employees. I've talked to a lot of county employees, and I've got a good relationship with the county employees and all the department heads. Anytime you get new leadership coming in, you can, as a business person, I think you can see, and I've said this many times before, I don't see there's a lot of waste. But I think when you bring new leadership and new ideas and fresh ideas in, that you could probably tweak a few things here or there, and management styles, and there could probably be some possible cost savings. But I don't know where whatever you've heard, but I think my record pretty much proves, and I've had hundreds of employees at my stores and my construction business too.
Right.
So I think I got a proven record of taking care of the employees. If you don't have good and county employees, you're not going to have a good working government. And we got a lot of departments and they're short-staffed as it is.
Right.
One thing I've said is, and in some of these debates is you may have to subcontract out some of the work if you have a disaster, for example.
Right.
You got a bunch of trees down, or the snow plowing. You got a big snowstorm, ice. You might get some subcontractors in to help you, because you don't have to hire a bunch of county employees that's for emergency needs when you're not using them, every day.
Right.
So when you subcontract out, which most business people do, in times of emergencies or you're overwhelmed with your workforce. The bulky item pickup, and we've done this before. It's not like it's new. We've contracted out truckers, and we've had people plow some roads in the rural areas. And so, I just say when you streamline, that's what you've got to do. You got to look at all those options. And I think at the end of the day, when you do some of that, and as the county grows, I'm not going to eliminate any what I call jobs. And I've been there's been some discussion, or I've been a few attacks on me that I was going to eliminate a bunch of county jobs. Well. Just about every department is understaffed now, so I don't know how you're going to eliminate any, and I know how that is getting anybody to work in today's world.
Right.
So if you have to subcontract out some to meet the needs of the community, I just think it's a good business plan.
Right.
And being in private business like I have all these years, and putting in sewer and waters and streets, and I've built internet line, electric lines, and so on. And many times you got to subcontract some of that out. So that's where I'm at. So I don't know where there should be any fear out there. If there is, I just don't see where it would be at.
Right.
Tim, you were mentioning your business and your many business interests. If you were elected county judge executive, that's a full-time job. How would you manage that?
Well, I've got a manager at my store. My niece has been working with me for 10 years, and she's been doing the day-to-day management, and especially during this election. I've very limited time at my store. The development side of my business, the company that we do not do any more of that. I have built a few homes, and just built my daughter a new home, and I've done a lot of work at St. Gregory's the last 3 years. Done a lot of building down there for them. On my own time, no charge, of course.
Right.
And so I've pretty much eased out of the construction side of it the last couple of years, just other than helping. I think I built my daughter, 2 daughters, and my son a house, and then I've done a tremendous amount of work at St. Gregory. So that's pretty much, I've kind of eased out of that, planning for this position.
Right. Tim, I think, and this is just my observation, some of your advertising tying your opponent to Democratic policies, Joe Biden, and inflation. Of course, inflation hits everybody, and we're all feeling that. But is it fair to, you think, to really attack your opponent about the issues that the judge executive can't do anything about abortion, or inflation, or the price of gas, But, those are Democratic. You can point to those as this is the result of Democratic, administration. But, how's that relate to the judge executive race?
Well, I think when my values, I was, like I say, everybody knows I was a registered Democrat for many years, like most people in this county. And the values of the Democratic Party pretty much left me, doesn't align with me. I think it's too much, too much pro-government, and too much, giveaways, and the pro-abortion. You've got on their agenda, and that's the reason I separated for that. My opponent is a registered Democrat. He's a Biden supporter, and he's a Charles Booker supporter at his rally. So, I've had a tremendous amount of people ask me that question, and the state of Kentucky has the registration has went Republican red. County's about 500 votes or registrations for being red. Washington County just went red. Hardin County, LaRue County. You can go on and on and on. And the reason why is that? Because the values of the Democratic Party have left a lot of these people that don't agree with their values. So, and I'm one of them. And so he's My opponent was at a Charles Booker rally, and I heard people ask me about it, and so I just think they need to know where our support is. And if you agree with his social agenda and what he believes in, and I wasn't at his rally because I don't agree with him on 99% of the things. So I think it's fair game, and that's I haven't said one word or anything about my opponent on his personal life, his marriage, his church, or anything personally. It's all
Right.
It's all factual information.
Well, I would disagree with you there as to the values of the Democratic Party, and being against having the government tell you what you can do with your body is not the same thing as being pro-abortion.
Is that a question?
No, it's a statement.
Okay. Well, I'm a pro-life candidate, and I won't apologize for that at all. And I personally think abortion is murder, and I'll stand to that. And I'm a pro-life candidate, and that's where I'm standing.
Okay. Tim, according to the Kentucky election finance website, in the primary you spent about $70,000.
Mm-hmm.
Most of that was your own money.
That's correct.
And that's probably more money in a judge executive race that's ever been spent. I mean, and that was
I
just
don't know.
the
I
primary.
haven't looked at them, so I don't know that.
Well, I know since Dean's been in, I don't think anybody's ever spent that much. But why is that office to you worth? I mean, the problem with campaigning is you never know what the other guy, how big the other guy's gun, or how deep his pockets
Right.
are going to be. So you had to come loaded for bear. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
So is the fact you're willing to invest so much in this race, a reflection of your desire to want to be judge executive? I mean, you've run several times in the past.
Twice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this is your, is this your turn, you think, to be able to do it?
Well, I think the time in the past I've had a three-way race. You go back to the primary, there was a three-way race in the primary. And just like you said, with the Biden administration and inflation, so that affects the elections also. You
Right.
know what the cost, I don't know if y'all know what the cost of doing business is, but I do. And it's costing a lot for everybody out in the county. Every citizen out there is seeing it. I hear it every day, and I'm out campaigning all over, and they're concerned about the high gas and high diesel and high food, and we're at a 40-year high in inflation. So that affects everything, elections, in the same way. And you've got to get your message out, and I don't like to spend any money in an election but what do you do to get your message out? Because you've got the other side, you don't know what they're putting out. It could be false information or not enough information. You got to get your agenda out. You're sitting here on a radio show. I ask people all the time, have you listened to WRT? Oh, no, I don't listen to that. You see it in the Standard? We have an event. Well, I didn't know you was having the event. Well, did you look at the Standard? I don't read the Standard. I said, well, you're on Facebook. I don't do Facebook. So then you got signs. Well, you got signs everywhere. So then you got to do your social media, and all of that adds up to a lot of money to get your message out. And it's a shame in today's world what it costs to run an election, a successful, solid election. And that's I mean, you look at state and federal. I mean, I'd hate to even think about running a state or a federal election, what it would cost to try to get your message out. It's not easy. And if you're going to do it and try to be successful, like I say, I had two opponents in my primary, and I've never been in a general election where I've had one-on-one. It's the first time.
All right. Well, Tim, that kind of leads me into my next question. Are you? And again, this is kind of a hypothetical question: will judge executive be the springboard for you to go on up to another, office like Thomas Massey went from judge executive of Robertson County?
I'm not sure what county he's in, Northern Kentucky.
Northern Kentucky, but he went to, and that's a small county. Went from there to
I'm not interested.
House of Representatives.
Yeah, I'll cut you off short there real quick because I'm not interested in any state or federal elections. I've had opportunities in the past. I was recruited heavily to run for representative in this county for many years, and with a lot of what I call strong, important people. And I'd have no desire to represent in Frankfort or Washington, zero. And I don't see that changing.
Okay, all right. Well, Tim, you know, I don't know. I think you and I are probably close to the same age, and there's things we've done over the last, you know, decisions we've made, and I think I'm in that boat too. Sometimes you look back and you think, well, that might have been not been the best decision to have made, but it seemed to be at the time. And I want to bring up a couple of things that happened in the past, just to get your take on it 20 years, you know, later now. And you remember when the city annexed out 245, and I think they got your store when they did that annexation. And I think there was an incident, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just pulling these details out of memory, that at your store you did a test of sorts to see how quick the police response would be if there was a need for them at the store. And I know that I just remember seeing it in the paper,
right.
You know, that, magistrate, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right, yeah.
But I know that a lot of people out that way did not really want to be to be annexed. So there was a lot of animosity about it.
Well, there's two different issues you're talking about. The annexation, what we call, if you look at contiguous, and you look up the word contiguous,
right.
It touches, and it was an overreach, in my opinion, and we challenged it. And of course, we'd have to appeal it, and it costs a whole lot of money to appeal it, and it takes a lot of money to do that, and I didn't want to waste the money to do that.
Right.
And they, when the city annexed that corridor, and they skipped every house, and I don't know if you call it contiguous, I don't call it that way. They annexed what you call a sewer line, but they did not annex 100% of the sewer line. So they annexed, they started Ben Urban Road, and they did not annex anybody. They just annexed the sewer line and the road all the way to where Crocus Academy is. My mother lived at the time.
Yep.
The sewer line goes back to Miller Springs. They annexed the sewer line. They did not get Lutheran Church Road. They annexed 245, and I guess you call that, what's the old 245? You know what road?
Templin?
Templin.
Yeah.
But you don't have. They didn't have to maintain those roads because state maintains them. So the only thing they had to worry about was the sewer line. So anyway, they did that, and then they come out and annexed Handy Food Mart and my shop next to it, Miller Springs. And then he skipped I think 5 houses, and then he annexed the hospital. So if you call that contiguous, that's just another debate at another day. I don't think it has anything to do with this election, but that's what they did.
Right. But you took some heat over the calling the police out.
No, that's funny you bring that up because it was a political ploy, and anybody who keeps up with it knew it was. And it's not like you pulled an alarm on the wall.
Right.
It's silent alarms under the counter. The girls was testing them, and we have done it before. And the police came out there, and like I say, looking back, instead of calling and doing it, because it was a silent alarm that we hadn't had those silent alarms in. As a matter of fact, I think they're wireless now. But if you hear all the, I guess back in the day, I haven't even heard anybody talk about it for so many years. I kind of forgot about it. But the assumption that you went on the wall and pulled an alarm, no, that's not the way it happened. They were silent alarms, and I don't know if they were wireless. They're wireless now, so making sure that they were actually working.
Okay. All right. Well, Tim, another incident, and again, this is going way back. And these details may not be right, so please correct me. Okay. The story goes in my memory that you had a project you were working on as a builder, and you needed either a drain tile or a culvert or a piece of pipe. And that the story is that you ended up borrowing some from the county road barn to finish this project because there wasn't another piece available locally. I don't know, you can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong.
Let me just tell you what happened.
All right, because
there was, when I was on vacation, again, there's another political ploy, because that happened several years before that, and I think Bobby Hampton was the county road supervisor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Bobby wrote a story and a letter and made sure everybody knew that was a common practice. When
That's right. I remember that.
Bobby wrote that there's common practice, and I've done sewer and water lines in the city of Bardstown, Mount Washington, E-Town, Louisville, Bullock County, Nelson County, and I don't particularly even remember what this was, but we have had relationships, me and every other company out there.
Uh-huh.
What they do is, so if you get inspected, you put in these, I don't know what that was, that might have been a drain, or it might have been a water line, I don't know what, it probably was a drain. And so you got your equipment and your parts on site, and then let's just say you crushed 45 angle or a band, and it's on a nighttime, like the city of Bardstown, like a water line, they don't want to shut the factory down.
Right.
We've swapped parts out with the city of Bardstown before, like other companies, Mount Washington. Hardin County, we put in I think a 48-inch water line over there, you can imagine that, and trying to shut down, and you try to open it up, and you can't go to the general hardware store and get these things after hours.
Right.
And the municipalities usually have extra parts.
Right.
And they suggest it, actually. So let's get the part there to get it going and get it finished. You might have a flash flood coming that night. You're going to flood all your neighbors. And then the next day, you get the part and replace it. So you just trade out parts. And that's a common practice everywhere, as far as I know. And they tried to make a political issue of it when I was out of town again. And so it was, it was just, Bobby wrote that story and John Kelly checked it and nothing, wasn't nothing to it, really.
Right. Well, I remember nothing came of it.
Nothing came of it. There was nothing there to, try to make a big deal out of something that didn't amount to anything.
All right.
It's what you call politics, Jim.
Well, Tim, we'll change the direction here. Are there any specific changes you'd like to see, that you envision as far as county government, as far way things operate within county government? I mean, of course, until you get on that horse, you really don't know exactly all the moving parts. But you have a good idea. I mean, you were there for 17 years.
Well, you hear the people that deals on a daily basis in their homes and the business people that feel like their regulations are too strong, too much, or maybe not enough in some cases. And when you've been on both sides of it, it's private, and then you've been in the government like I have, you can see there's a little bit of overreach. The code enforcement office for sure. There's some inspections there that I don't think it should have to be done on the average person. If you want to go in and do something in your living room, you technically got to get a permit and go in and have it inspected and so on. I don't think you should have to do it in your personal house that you've already been there for 40 years. If you go out and buy an outside the building from Lowe's or whatever, and if it's over 10 by 12 square feet, you have to have it inspected and get a permit to put that in your on your place. I think it's overreach as another example, and I think we need to eliminate a lot of those, what I call simplify the regulations, planning and zoning. I've had meetings with the director, and I've had some of the training sessions with them that I've been on many of them over the years. And most of them there agree that there's a lot of them in there that need to be streamlined. Most of them there, the director even agrees a lot of them needs to be simplified, cleaned up, merged, make it easier on people that are trying to work every day and make a living.
Right.
And let's make it simpler and easy for them. I want everybody's life to be easy and simple. I want every office in the county to bend over backwards to be as helpful as we can. Not just for all the new people coming,
right,
but people that live here. I mean, we've been paying the taxes all these years, and I've said this several times. I'd like to have a full-time grant writer that would help in all the departments because we are 150, 60 employees, and you got a lot of divisions in the county, and somebody that can go to Frankfort and Washington and write these grants, because there's 120 counties out there trying to pull the same amount of money. And I think that you get, and that's a proven fact. I can get the data and show you some of them that get, more money than Nelson County gets. And kind of like, and they, not to be a full-time, but it'd be plenty enough to pay their salary.
Right.
And then there'd be extra money they can pull in for, like the internet, for example. We need a lot of roads out in the county that need internet. And that's a big deal nowadays, and even the farmers use a lot of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a big push for that. In the next few years, I think that's doable. The state has, because the Republican Party has taken over the House and the Senate in the last several years, and they've been very frugal with their money, the state's in a whole lot better financial shape than they have been in years past, and so they've got more money there that they can utilize and give back to the counties. And my relationship with Senator Jimmy Higdon and Candy Masseroni now, she's been a friend of mine for years, and she's the new elect representative. And of course, Rand Paul, Brett Guthrie, and Tom Massey, that I don't know that well, I've met him. I've got a good relationship with all those, and I've already met with them several times. And you have that bridge, I guess you say, that I've already created, and I just think that I can get a lot more of those federal and state monies brought to this county. I'm pretty confident of that.
Tim, as judge executive, at some point you may be faced with finding new revenue or cutting services. What county services would you cut or begin to charge a fee for if that happened, and how would you make up for the money that would be needed?
Well, with inflation at a 40-year high, Margie, in the last 2 years, just 2 years' time, that's happened, less than 2 years.
Yes, during
in
the
county. The county is like everybody else. They're in the same position. And I've said it here before with I think you all and Jim, that it's just maintaining what we've got with the amount of inflation, because the county government's in the same boat. The county budget's in solid shape. There's enough money there now. I think the sheriff deputies for sure need more money. It's been proven. The county judge that just retired admitted there were several underpaid. And we just had a sheriff deputy got injured and shot, another one got shot at, and 3 or 4 police cars got shot up, and they put their life on the line every day. You've heard me say it. When you call 911, the county judge and the magistrates don't show up, but the police do. And anytime there's a domestic violence, drugs, you can go on about it, and if anybody's destroying property, you call, and the police show up, and they do a great job. The city, as far as I can tell, the city police do a great job. So you've got to take care of your police. I think all the other departments, I know they're going to be, everybody needs more money because of the inflation, so we've got to work on that. I think there's enough money in the budget. You got to be frugal with it. You can't waste it. One of my opponents said he identified in the primary that, could you save $1 million if you went through and itemized throughout the budget? I feel the same way. There's some money in there that can probably, I definitely wouldn't want to cut any of the emergency services, that's for sure. Right. So,
but if
as
you
far as creating new money
Yes.
and trying to do new money, we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there. But I just don't see, as of right now, you'd have to raise any taxes or create any new taxes unless you want to provide a bunch of more things that the public may like. But, you got to prioritize your services. And, of course, you got the police, ambulance, and
Right.
EMS, fire, emergency service.
Well, I'll tell you, Tim, one idea that, and this kind of came up, last year during bulky item, is the cost of bulky item. Is it time to add a fee to the garbage bill to cover the cost of bulky item? Because I think the county doesn't always get the full cost of the time and manpower it takes to do that. Because that's quite an effort.
Well, you got it depends on that. At the end of the day, you got this whatever pool of money you got, and you separate them out in all these different departments and divisions, and you try to show where the county road department helps the landfill, and the landfill together. They pick up the garbage and take it out there.
Right.
The fees on the landfill. They've talked about the 911 fees. The local court now, the previous judge he says it was underfunded, and you'd have to work with the fiscal court and the magistrates and just see what their desires are. The magistrates will have to make that final decision, and see what direction they want to go in. We're going to have some probably new, well, we're going to have some new elected magistrates and to see what direction they want to go.
I said older women.
Sorry. All right. The Tim, we're getting down to the wire on time, but I did want to ask you: do you think we need to? Right now, the county has 2 engineers, John Greenwell and Brad Spalding.
Right.
Do we need 2 certified engineers on the county payroll?
Well, you can go back and look at when they're certified engineers and they can stamp the plans. And I know John is working at the landfill heavily about it,
Right.
and there's a lot of stuff you got to go through. I forgot how many papers he said the other day. And an average layperson going out there trying to do that would be pretty tough. And the county owns the landfill, and they've kept the rates down as low as possible. And I had a person asked me the other day, I don't know where it came from, is he've heard that somebody said about selling the landfill and selling the garbage service to private individuals. I think by us owning the landfill to keep the rates down, and we did it as a fiscal court when I was there before, and I think it's still the best way to go. And you got the engineer Brad Spalding, and before that we had Jim Lameau.
Right.
And back in one of my other races, I don't have that formula with me, we showed how much money they saved the county if you had to contract this stuff out to private engineers. It was up there close to $1 million, I think.
Right.
So it saved a lot of money by having them locally, that we didn't have to outsource that.
Right.
And then they can also manage day to day their departments at the same time.
Right.
So I think it's proven out to be too good, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And as an example, when I was on the court, we hired Brad to run the landfill, and Jim Lameau changed over to the road department. And then, I don't know how many years Brad has in, and if he in time decides to go at it, it's 27 years, and then you'd have somebody on staff trained that could do that job. So you don't want to leave the cupboard bare, I don't think, because
Right.
there's a lot of things going on in this county, and you see that how many bridges and roads and things that the state comes in and condemns, and you work with them and try to get that money sent to us locally that we can help administrate those.
Well, Tim, we were talking a few minutes ago about planning and zoning and regulations.
Right.
There's a little bit of irony there to me, because when you were magistrate, fiscal court approves regulations. The planning commission doesn't create them; they apply regulations approved by fiscal court.
Right.
So, are there any any initiatives you would like to see specifics about? That planning and zoning would back away from?
Well, there's all kinds of them in there, and then the director and I was on the committees. I don't know how many committees I sat on back before. They tried to pass a bunch of new regulations, and I blocked it in the court. Bigger lots, bigger water lines out in the rural areas, and it was going to cost the taxpayers. Anybody's buying a lot behind the house, another $10,000 to $15,000 per lot to do that, and I blocked that. I didn't say aye, but I got enough votes on the court, and I was very vocal about it, and I understood it because I was in the, I know a little bit about development and what the cost is. So that's one big thing right there that we did stop. I think there's some PUDs. You got B1, 2, 3s, 4s, 5s, all this in planning zoning, and I think they would agree right now that some of that stuff needs to be consolidated. When I left in 2010, I guess, and I was on those committees, and if I had still been on it, we'd been still. I don't know if they did after that or not. Continued that process. I don't think they did, but now you've got the comprehensive plan update that's coming through, and it's a time to sit down and revisit. When you get new ideas and new management styles, and I want to make everything as user friendly as possible for the people out here, and I think that's the direction that I want to go, and I think the people want to go.
Well, what about the county needing to invest in additional industrial park property? I mean, we've got the battery plant coming to Hardin County, and all those spin-off industries are going to be
Right.
looking for for places to land. And right now, we really don't have anything to show.
I think there's either one or two parcels left. I met with the economic director, and they're very limited. I know I'm not in on the committee, and I think most of that stuff stays confidential.
Right, right.
But they have been looking for land to expand the Nelson County Industrial Park. I don't know the temperature of the magistrates right now because I'm not on the court with them.
Mm-hmm.
Back several years back, I don't know what year we bought that land out there and developed an industrial park, and there was a little bit of opposition even then from a couple of magistrates, but we did it. I pushed for it. The county judge jumped on board. Kim Houston, the director, did. And, you have to bond that out, go in debt, because we paid for it, and we brought in the several different industries that came in here.
Right.
And when you do that, and you can get a lot of state, maybe some federal money to help build the infrastructure, where a private citizen, in most cases, can't do that.
Right,
But
right.
then you can lure and recruit and try to get some of these hopefully high-paying industries and companies coming in and give them some breaks on some land and so on. But what they have been doing in the last several years, it's been over, I think, $1 billion. I think since my opponent's been there, it's over $500 million in industrial revenue bonds that they have done, and through the court. And what that does, it gives property tax breaks for 30 years. And never in my time that I was there, I can't say that nobody, the court at that time would not do that. That much time.
Right.
I'm in favor of industrial revenue bonds, and that's a contract that gives you authority as a fiscal court to work with industries and give them incentives, and that's what you got to do because other counties are, trying to recruit or states.
Very competitive.
But I'll go on record right now and say I'm 100% giving those 30-year tax breaks, and it costs this county $9.8 million, and it's all data that's that you can pull. It's nothing. I'm just saying it's all record. And I think it's too much. Mm-hmm. And then if you didn't do as much and you've got these companies coming in, you could lower the compensating rate a little bit more for the average taxpayers. And we wouldn't all be paying as much. We could save a little more money on our local tax bills, and everybody would be a little bit more even killed. The small business guy and what I call the average little guy out here and the everyday person does not get those breaks.
Right.
And there's many small businesses I can tell you they're building right now in different places, and they don't get those breaks. I just think we need to help, hopefully, take care of our local taxpayers and come to an agreement, and that we can work with big business, little business, average person out here, and make it fair and equal for everyone.
Well, Tim, this is my last question, and it's out loud from left field. And but what's the biggest wrong decision that you think you've made as a magistrate, and what did you learn from it?
The biggest wrong decision?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Jim. I mean, I'm sure there's some. I don't know.
Or maybe one you remember.
I just really can't remember any. I think when you agree to something, to get specific, I probably can't do it. But one thing I do want to say is when you sit as a fiscal court or city council, whatever, and you make a resolution or a regulation or a policy or a law, I think it's very important to look back and see, is it working?
Mm-hmm.
And don't do like the Republican Party or the Democratic Party and say they're embarrassed because they realize they made a mistake and it's not working and it's going to make them look bad, for example.
Right.
I think as a county judge or a magistrate, you can look back and that's what I want to do. I want to go back and revisit, and I'm going to get a committee together and go through all the policies, regulations that may be outdated, may not need,
Mm-hmm.
and say, well, I voted for that 10 years ago, or I may have voted for it 2 years ago. But we need to tweak it. We need to take a line out of it, or we need to add verbiage to it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say, well, I don't know if I really made a mistake, but I say we was too broad, not broad enough, but we need to look at that and admit, going back and admit, saying, we made a mistake, for example, and change it. Don't,
Right.
Don't keep the planning and zoning regulations. I've heard them say right there in their committees meetings, they say, it's a shame we have to turn, it's documented, that
Right.
we have to turn this person down on this zoning because our regulations are outdated.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, that was in a public
Right.
hearing.
Right.
So we need to take those and go back and tweak them and change them and what's going to be better for the community moving forward. And I can't answer you specific, really.
Right.
I mean, I probably come up with several of them, but, we all go back and try to do the right thing, and then if it's not working, but I want to make sure that we fix it where it is working.
Okay. All righty. Well, we're down to the last couple of minutes. Margie, do you have another?
Well,
Question?
the question, we've been told by county department heads that if deputies receive significant raises as individuals, that this might make many county employees unhappy that they didn't receive an increase outside the annual 7%. So what is your message to county employees who are concerned about one essential department receiving raises over another?
Well, my point, I said that earlier, I think all the departments are very important. Anytime anybody's in any position, maybe I've got it at my work, at my store. I've got managers making more than assistant managers. I've got assistant managers making more than some clerks, and I've got other ones that fill the cooler, as an example. Same way on the construction. If you're going to be an operator, depends on your classification,
Your skills.
your skills, and your time and common sense and all the above. And my record, I think, will still prove, like I said earlier, that I've always been in favor of taking care of the county employees in every department. But I still will say the police, and it's a proven fact, and the county judge admitted it, that several of the deputies are underpaid. And they get when you start shooting bullets back at somebody, I think it's a little bit different. And you can't find anybody. They're not coming out of the academy. That's
Right.
the thing. You can't keep anybody.
Right.
And you got to keep good employees, and you don't want this turnover all the time. So,
Right. All right. Well, Tim, thank you.
yes, sir.
Been a good conversation, and that's going to do it for this week's Bradford and Brooks. We'll be back next week with Eric Shelburne in the hot seat. Until then, have a great week, everybody. See you next Wednesday for another Bradford and Brooks.